Well, it's the month of January, and here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, that means one thing. That means that the legislative session is in. Also, we have a special election here in the city of Norfolk in the 89th district. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville, and we'll be back in just a moment to talk with the candidate for this special election. Welcome back. It's Stay of the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We want to again wish you a phenomenal new year. We're only a week in, so it's still new to everybody. We want to again thank God for all the blessings He's given us to make it to see another 2022, and it's going to be a phenomenal 2022. Not just here in Hampton Roads, but here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and more specifically on the campus of the Norfolk State University, home of the Spartan Nations. We have so many proud Spartans, not only on campus, but across the Commonwealth and across the world. We want to thank you also for your support, for tuning in every Sunday at 1 p.m., where you tune in at 91.1, the soul of VA, the new sound of Hot 91. Not only that, we want to thank you for streaming us across our streaming platform as well. I'd like to also welcome our producer, also known as DJ Scandalous. You can hear him every day from 2 to 6 p.m. here on Hot 91. Marvin Folks, how you feel today?
I'm feeling great, sir. Like you said, it's going to be a phenomenal 2022. I mean, time is just flying, and just so happy to be here, man. It's a blessed Sunday.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? I'm even more excited because, this is my time of the year. I live, breathe, and sleep politics. And, it's in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we have our legislative session that's about to start this week. It is our long session. It's a session where it'll be a couple of months. We'll be in January, February, maybe some special time in March just to kind of close the session out, which tends to happen. But not only that, but, I not just live and breathe politics, but I live and breathe elections.
That's right.
And we've got a special election here in the city of Norfolk, more specifically, the district where Norfolk State University sits in the 89th. And this special election is for the representative who's going to represent the 89th district in the House of Delegates. Now, this election has been called for this Tuesday, January 11th, where the candidates who are running for the special election in Virginia were selected through what's called a firehouse primaries that were administered by each political party. And those candidates were chosen by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, those two respective parties. So their candidates are running in this special election. And it was called because Delegate Gerald Jones, announced his resignation from the seat on December 16th to spend more time as a father, his highest priority. And also he did kind of hint to, this doesn't mean he's going to stop fighting for the people of the Commonwealth. And it may hint at another run for Attorney General, in which he did run in the primary against the former Attorney General, soon to be former Attorney General, Mark Herring, which we will have a new Attorney General sworn in just a few days, along with a new governor and lieutenant governor here in the Commonwealth. But it's the 89th. It's all about the 89th district here in the Commonwealth, here in the city of Norfolk. And the two candidates are Jackie Glass, the Democratic candidate, who was also a former candidate for Norfolk City Council, and also newcomer to politics, Republican candidate Giovanni Dome. Now, we invited both candidates to be a part of this conversation. And Jackie Glass is joining us today. We invited both candidates, but we did not receive a commitment from Giovanni Dome. but we received a commitment from Jackie Glass. So right now, I'd like to introduce to our audience Jackie Glass, candidate for the 89th district seat here for the Virginia House of Delegates. Ms. Glass, how are you today?
I am well. Thank you for having me, Dr. Claville.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, it seemed like you just put up the sneakers from the campaign trail from what, about 45, maybe 60 days ago?
Not even, right? Not even.
That's right. So I mentioned earlier to our audience that you were a candidate for the city council seat, Super Ward 7, where you actually ran unsuccessfully, but ran a very close race, so close that you came in second. And that seat is currently represented by Danica Royster. But with that, it was 7 candidates in that slate, and you and now Councilwoman Royster, I believe, garnered about 50% of the total, a little bit over 50% of the total vote. So of those 7 candidates. So the showing was very strong in that race, and it was a lot of great things that happened in that race. Tell us some of the things that you learned while running for city council.
Well, I always say, you either win or you learn.
I like that.
And I can tell you, we learn an extraordinary amount of things. Just about just about half of the city, right? Because Super Ward 7 encompasses more than the 89. That's right. Super Ward 7 is over 100,000 folks, whereas the 89 is about 8,000. But what I know right now is that there's an overwhelming need for support for caregivers. I can't tell you the number of doors we knocked where there were elders that were being taken care of by their young children. And by young, I'm saying 40s and 50s, still career, mid-career, and holding the fort down. We learned that there's so many opportunities for us. And that's what we had already transitioned to, actually, Dr. Claville. My team and I, we were still meeting every Wednesday post-election. Wow. Because we were ready to start putting in some work on some of the things we knew as we just collectively sort of pulled together the way we did on the campaign within the community, we could see some change. And we were really excited about it. so they say if you want to hear God laugh, tell me your plans. But that was the plan.
That's right.
To get back to work at the top of the year, February, we planned on launching an organization called the United Norfolk, just to really get and dig in on some of these things that we learned about in the community. So here we are.
Absolutely, absolutely. You mentioned that you and your team were still meeting on Wednesdays, and I took a look at your website, Jackie 4 Norfolk, the number 4 Norfolk.com. That's Jackie, the number 4 Norfolk.com. And you have a quote here, and it caught my eye. And you said that I'm running not because the seat is open, but because you want to do the job. And to me, to want to do the job, this job, which is a part-time job, but it's a full-time commitment. It takes preparation. It takes, you being able to really count up the cost and say, this is what I want to do. Tell us why you really want to do this job.
So I would be very wrong if I didn't mention the job and the sacrifice that my family makes in me not always, but finding ways to want to do the job. Wow. That require a marriage within the commitment. So within the community, right? My husband says you got 2 spouses. You got the community and you got me. and it's the truth. Growing up, my father called me a hemorrhoid, right? And it wasn't until I was about 14 years old that I actually asked him what it meant. And I realized he said that at that time. It was really hard for me to digest when he said, Jackie, it's a pain in my butt. But I recognize what that is now. Like, I've always been a person for as long as I could remember and start really being self-assessing that has wanted to ask the questions, right? Like, let's ask all of the questions. Okay, now that we've got all the questions asked, okay, so what can we do now? And that has always come from a place of service. And, whether it was the military or it was the community, I feel like my cup is filled by serving, right? By being not the person having all the answers, but there's something really special when you're able to get people to work together to get some results. Because I truly believe, like, doing this job is demystifying the idea that folks that get elected are deserve heroification, because that is patently false. There has to be sort of a level of doing this job with an invitation in for people to understand that the power that in getting work done, the power from a sidewalk to a policy is in communities, is in people. And so I want to do that. I want to do that. I find myself not being able to pick up paperback books, but being able to pick up policy and read all night long, right? Like, and to your point, it is about planning. And so this job to me is an extension, I think, of what's in my heart. And I'm just grateful to have people around me that will sacrifice with me to try to do this and do these sorts of things well.
Absolutely. This is Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We'd like to welcome you to our special election for the 89th House District here in the Commonwealth of Virginia show, where we have candidate Jackie Glass, the Democratic candidate who is running to fill the seat left vacant by former delegate Jay Jones. Special election is this Tuesday, January 11th. All day, you have a chance to vote for your new representative. Jackie, tell us, you mentioned your father saying this thing about you and not really understanding this adjective, this description of who you are. But since that time and through your career, your family, your experiences, it's helped to shape your philosophy in life. Tell us who Jackie Glass is. Where do you come from? How did your Navy career help to shape you? And what are you really doing now?
So I tell people I'm come here, not from here, but we chose our home here. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area in a suburb about 15 minutes south called Chicago Heights. And I grew up with, a very, very active mother. My mother worked for Ford Motor Company. She just retired, and I sort of begged her, and she's now, as of last year, March, made Norfolk her home. So I'm so grateful to have her here. Wow. And I just come from a place of love. I'm a mom. I have 2 little citizens of my own, and a host of little babies that I call my own in my neighborhood. But I'll tell you, the military, like just even walking my way to why I'm in this space and place, is the military was my plan B. It was not something that I saw myself doing, but economically, and because I had, I'll just be candid, I was assaulted by a classmate my senior year in high school, and I felt an overwhelming drive to get out of where I was. I just needed to get away. I needed to get away without a sense of dependency, and it led me on this path, one, to justice, because even in that situation, what I learned is I found other women that had the same instant as me, and I was not able to get justice, but they were, and that there were some racial things there as well. And it brought me into the military, where I found how you can work within a system to that one person or 2 people or 3 people within a system, when you really understand how it works, can foster change. I was a cryptologist. I know people like, when I say cryptologist, I know folks don't mean, sometimes they're like, what does that mean? Or that just means I was secret squirrely, yes, top secret SCI clearance, doing work on missile defense and things and sorts like that, but spent most of my time on the West Coast and in the Gulf, and now here. And I'll say my spouse, who is also my best friend, said, you need to go to Norfolk, because that's where, for the things that you want to do, that's where you need to go. I avoided the East Coast my entire career.
Wow.
But here we are. And even in the instance of walking ourselves to really being committed to the community, the precipice of me running, whether it was for school board, was problem solution, right? And not myself being the total solution, but a culmination of pulling things together that I felt like I could be a convener for that solution. Same thing with city council. And now here we are in this moment where I'll tell you, I said, I don't know that I want to do this, but having people that know my heart and knew that it was just fatigue and it was just, a little bit of sadness, saying, I don't know that I want to do this again, pushing and saying, really, really think about this. I'm so grateful to be here in this space and place and to have had the experiences and been accepted by a community that affords me with my privilege of time, Dr. Claville, because let me just say that you said it, this is part-time work with full-time problems. So there has to be a privilege of time. And also economically privileged to be able to show up in this way. And so this is what we do.
Absolutely. You know, you talk about, you know, pulling in the work, and you on your website, you talk about building public trust. And the only way you're going to build public trust is that you have to be engaged in the community. And I heard you say that you have, of course, your husband and also two citizens, two beautiful children of your own. And you also have others that you call your children. And it kind of put a smile on my face because, you know, all of us, it takes a community. It took a community, you know, to get all of us to where we are. And I believe all of us can look back to that community that helped to raise us. But to do that, you got to have public trust. And on your site, you talk about building public trust and normalizing the ABCs of governing: accountability, boldness, coalitions. Tell us a little bit about those ABCs of your philosophy in building public trust.
Yeah, so village is a verb, right? It's an act. And when I was sort of thinking about how do I get into this world of like this run, when I was thinking about the run I just previously did, it was like, what do I want? What is fundamentally as a constituent, as a person just living with my government, right? Because our whole lives are legislated, right? You don't have to like politics, but you better for dang, I'm sure, like policy, because policy is enacted in every part of your life. If you put your seatbelt on the day and you're not driving with your phone, it's because some policy has put you here. And so I asked myself, what did I want, and how can I keep it simple and relatable to the everyday person? And so what is as simple as the ABCs? And I want accountability. I want that for myself, and I want that for the people that we choose to make sort of these decisions for us, and to legislate for us. I want boldness. It is hard. I'm going to just tell you, even stepping out into the state level arena, there are people that want to change. You know, they want to change your conviction. There are people that want you to just, you know, sit down and be quiet. There are ideas that may seem radical right now, but are not. Remember, us drinking from the same water fountain as white folks was radical at one point. And so I want someone to be bold. And then I want coalition building because, again, one person, casting a ballot for one person and sending them off to do the work is not what changes things. It is a building of coalition. And I know that we are in time where if we're going to really see some of the things that we want to get done, it's going to take some public-private partnerships. It's going to take some union public partnerships, and it's going to take just communities all around believing that they are a part of this system and seeing that change enacted. And I find myself as maybe a conductor and a convener and willing to work with people to see those things. And so I'm just, that ABC is just me saying, this is simple. It's what I want. It's what the standards I expect people to hold me to, and that's what I'm asking for of governance.
Village is a verb. We're talking with Jackie Glass, who is a candidate for the special election to be held this Tuesday, January 11th, here in the city of Norfolk for the 89th House District, left vacant by former Delegate Jay Jones. You know, we've talked about your philosophies, your ABCs of building public trust. You mentioned village is a verb. I really like that, and I'm letting you know I'm going to use that in the future. So
you can get the T-shirt. I got a T-shirt. I'll get you one.
Thank you so much. And you say you're running not because the seat is open, but because you want to do the job. On the very first page of your website, you say this is a message from Jackie, full-time leader for our full-time problems. What are some of the problems that you see? And you say problems, but I like to say opportunities, because right? Because, you know, is anytime you see something that isn't functioning at a high level, or something that we deem is wrong or could be better, it's an opportunity, right? And not just an opportunity to point it out, because anybody can point it out, but an opportunity to put into action, you know, your leadership abilities, your gift, whatever your resources are, to be the solution. Tell us about some of the opportunities you see to bring solutions as a full-time leader in the 89th.
Well, so I'll start with the fact that oftentimes when we're finding these opportunities, specifically for women and people of color, is that we find these opportunities off of our own struggles, right? We're exchanging our trauma for change. And to sort of get justice. So some of the priorities for me have always been centered around women and families, right? And what that looks like to legislate and lead from a place that advances those people, right? So for me, it sort of had to be a shift from, like, what does that look like locally, and how do we hold that in our hands at the state level to support, right, to advocate and support and celebrate as well. So one thing that's really important to me is childcare, because I definitely went through my challenges, even on active duty, with childcare. And like I said, in the community, we're seeing it with elder care. What we've done so far, and I can say that we can expand on it, last year, or maybe, these years are running together, 2020, I believe it was, is I brought a child care entrepreneurship pilot program to the city of Norfolk, which they have since enacted, looking at some of these social services as ways to social enterprise and give folks the opportunity for entrepreneurship. That program led to a piece of legislation in the 2021 House of Delegates, 2021 General Assembly session, to allow our city to be one of the first cities in the state of Virginia to license home child care.
Wow.
So what I've learned about home child care is that it builds communities. It's a beautiful thing to be able to have the person that is caring for your child within your area. It also gives folks the opportunity to build their business. I don't see this as just people watching kids. And let me just transition. I don't see it as just people taking care of elders. These are small business owners, right? Typically women doing these sorts of things. I can say with absolute certainty, when I think about women and children, this is going to be a difficult pill to sort of get through this next legislator. We're Democratic, we've had Republican legislators, and we still don't have guaranteed paid sick days.
Wow.
We still, you know what I'm saying? Like, as much as I want to say, I'm saying this out loud to put everybody on notice that it is some of the concerns that we have. It's not just about whether it's a D or the R at the table. We've got it's people in a place of privilege not seeing how the decisions to not do certain things are trickling down.
Right.
And because of that, in COVID, we've got educators taking days off to watch their own students so that their mothers don't lose their jobs. These are real instances over and over again. So I see opportunity for us to advance the lives of women and families. I see opportunity for us to legislate to give the localities teeth to make developers build affordable and energy efficient housing, because right now we can have inclusionary zoning, things like that, and developers can say, well, we don't care, we build what we want, and there's no consequence.
Right.
So it's about setting ourselves up for success, whether that's with small business, economy, and environment. So I would run the whole gamut of things, but those are things that are extremely important to me, that trifecta of education, housing, and health, and really sort of looking at these things on a whole and what it looks like to not just submit legislation, but amend legislation to be able to allow localities to do what we do, to do better business by us.
Absolutely. Those are some of the highlights of what matters to you, some of your initiatives that I know that you're going to take with you to Richmond if you after the votes are counted, if you are elected the next delegate. But you mentioned something that I know that we're grappling with, not just on the state level, but the federal level. And those are some of the things that we've that have been campaign slogans, stump speeches that said we need, and we still don't have it. And you referenced the paid family leave, the paid leave, for mostly women who are the main caretakers for families, children, spouses. And you mentioned something that a lot of us are starting to deal with now, being the caretakers for our parents or grandparents, right? Adult caretakers. What do you believe has to be different And what will you do differently when you get to Richmond to help push that narrative, not to just say this is something we want, rhetoric, but to actual legislation in action?
Yeah, what I think has to, and I'm saying you mentioned something that sort of shifts the narrative for many people is COVID. Like COVID created this opportunity to really start pushing forward with things like child care and elder care. And so what has to happen, right? What has to happen is that we've got to start. There is a perception again around child care as just people watching kids, and I don't believe that our state systems and our local systems should be a complete social service. I fully believe like we've got to start looking at our social problems as enterprises, and it's not just about legislation. It's about again building public and private partnerships and being a convener of those things, because we cannot legislate morals to say that it is not okay for us to. I'm just saying we can't legislate morals or values, but it does. The way that we spend money tells us a little bit about where we're investing. So for me, it's about going to Richmond and truly advocating for the dollars to support building and supporting those sorts of things like child and elder care. Here's what I know. I don't know if I'll be able to put in one bill, Dr. Claville. I don't even know how that looks. I'm just, planning for the day after of being ready to go and fill the cup up to get to work. But what I do know is that there's an abundance of federal dollars that still have not been allocated. And if we really do our homework on the money, we know that there is earmarked, right, for care, right, and we're also looking at care as early childhood education, because it is. I think we come out the womb knowing how to manipulate and knowing how to get the things we want, and we continue to learn. So if we look at it as a way as an opportunity, using that care infrastructure part of the bill, using the sound, and I'm just talking about the earmark piece. Yeah. There's an earmark for sound mitigation. We've got several neighborhoods that can use it. I can go up there with these things in mind. And I think, like I said, there's a little bit more connections with communities that need to be made and advocate for dollars to come down, because while we can wait for projects and wait for programs to be built, we can understand that when dollars come down, we can fill those. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, in the second half hour, I mean, you mentioned something that I want to talk about. And will you be able to stay on and join us for the second half hour as well?
I definitely can. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So, in the second half hour, we're going to talk about this legislative session, and it's going to be historic, right? Because, as you mentioned, we have over $1 billion of money that is not earmarked for anything. So we have an opportunity to really change the trajectory of not just the Commonwealth, but at the smallest level, our children. Because we said child care, not just watching kids, but putting money into helping to educate our children so that when they do step into class the first day of kindergarten, they're ahead of the curve by several years or more. So these are opportunities that our community needs, opportunities that 89th District needs, opportunities that our city and our Commonwealth needs. So we're talking with Jackie Glass, who is the Democratic candidate to fill the seat left vacant by Jay Jones here in the 89th Virginia House District, where the House of Delegates will send a new delegate to Richmond on January 11th after the polls close. So January 12th, we'll have a new representative, and that representative will be either Jackie Glass or the Republican challenger, Giovanni Domo. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments after this commercial break to continue our conversation with candidate Jackie Glass.
Continue to mask up, get vaccinated, save a life, and continue with your PPEs. The Delta variant is spreading faster than COVID-19. Do your part to help stop the spread of the Delta variant. Get vaccinated and wear your mask.
This Save a Life campaign message has been brought to you by the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, Black Public Radio, and WNSP Hot 91, the soul of VA.
Hello?
Man, where are you? I thought you were coming.
I can't. I'm in bed with the flu.
The flu? Whoa. Grandma's about to crowd surf. Man, I'll call you back.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is safe, effective, and you can get it at the same time as your COVID-19 vaccine. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Once again, we'd like to welcome everyone and give everyone a happy new year once again. It's still the first week of the new year. It's been it was a good 2021. God got us through, and we made it to 2022. We got our producer here, Marvin Folks, also known as DJ Scandalous, where you could hear him every day, Monday through Friday, here on the new sound of Hot 91, the Soul of VA. How you feel, Marvin?
Feeling great. I can't believe, man, it's been a year already from January 6th last year. Can you believe that? Like, time has flown, man.
Absolutely. But you know what? Again, we've had great guests, great shows, great reviews, and it's only getting better. And it only gets better because of our listeners, our supporters. We'd like to thank all of our listeners, all of our supporters of the Spartan Nation, all across the Commonwealth, all across the country, and those that stream us across the world on our streaming app. And today, we have a special show for you. This is our special election for the 89th House District here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, in the city of Norfolk, where the Norfolk State University sits squarely in the 89th District. And today, we have one of the candidates who's running to fulfill the seat left vacant by former delegate Jay Jones, is Jackie Glass. Jackie, thank you again for joining us for this second half hour.
Thank you for having me. I mean it.
Absolutely. So in the first half hour, we talked a lot about who you are, where you come from, and really what matters to you. And it's a phenomenal story. And this isn't the first time you've been on the show, because we mentioned earlier that it seemed like you just put up the shoes from campaigning and canvassing and getting out there on the street, getting people out to vote when you ran for city council. But now you're having to do it all over again. Tell us how exciting this campaign has been for you and your family.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you use the right word, sneakers, right? Because I'm always in sneakers. However, I think there's a word that comes before excitement, and I'm going to be really candid with folks. It's fatigue, and it's not just among myself and my team. It's among voters, right? Like, I just did this, Jackie, and then you asked me to do it at the caucus, and now you're asking me to do it again. Like, there's real voter fatigue, but there's a level of commitment that allows us to just keep going, right? And there is a premise of hope that tells us that we've got to do it. So I think maybe at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the 11th, there will be a bit of excitement and gratitude for all that has happened and our ability to keep it moving. But I don't think my family's really excited because they haven't had dinner cooked for them in about a week and a half.
Well, look, if I'm being honest, when I was a kid, we cooked a lot. But I love when my parents said, we're going out to eat. So, I'm pretty sure some of the kids are enjoying a little of that.
Yeah. You know what we call that, Dr. Claville? My son says, or my mama, I grew up with it too. And they be like, Mama, is it Jesse tonight? And I say, yeah, what Jesse means is just whatever you see. Just whatever you see, go ahead.
Absolutely. So tell us, how have you been campaigning in this environment? I know things are open back up with COVID. I know that, we're urging individuals to continue to be safe, continue to protect themselves by being vaccinated, by getting boosted, by really understanding the science. Tell us how you have been canvassing and going out.
Well, yeah, so when we initially started with just dropping literature, and what I mean by that, for folks to understand, we were just putting things on people's doors, just putting information about us in the campaign on doors. We've done some mailers, and right now I'm actually sitting at the headquarters where we got folks out knocking doors and just sort of reminding them that you don't stand up on folks' doors, that respect that many people may not come to doors, not just because of COVID, but because it's cold outside. Mm-hmm. And I want to open the front door. But also just, saying, be patient with the process, and we're just grateful to have committed volunteers that are willing to knock on those doors. And I'll be quite honest, when we do get folks to open the door, it's a pleasant situation. Wow. It has been very pleasant. I was reminded yesterday that I'm short in person when I knock the door. So it's just a labor of love. We just do it, Dr. Claville. We just get out there and we just do it.
Wow. And your volunteers, you say you've been meeting with your team since every Wednesday, ever since the election here for city council, and then even afterwards. Tell us how your team is working with you, how you're staying in touch, how they're staying energized.
Ooh, we just had this conversation last night. We are exercising our empathy muscles with each other. That's what we're doing. And it is hard, because we have been on for 7 months, and now we are taking a little bit more. I also want to send my gratitude to the people across the state who in this time just went through an election, even our Department of Elections, they just shut their equipment down, right? And over a holiday, people had to really ramp up. Essentially probably didn't get much of a holiday trying to prepare for January 11th. Wow. So it is not just us who are just a small core group of people that are just, trying not to, we try not to hurt each other. We're trying to make sure that everything we say comes from a place of love, but because we remember the mission, right? We're trusting and believing that this has divine order and that this is our mission, but recognizing that we are not the only people at work. So that has been helpful. That it's not just us. We're not just doing this. This isn't happening to us. This is happening for us, and we need to rise to the occasion.
Absolutely. Before we took the break, you mentioned the legislative session and the amount of funding that we have that's not earmarked. We have the Commonwealth of Virginia is what we call flush with cash. And that's a very good thing, because I remember over a decade ago, when we were going into session, it was about making cuts, right? Because we just didn't have the funding at the time. But now we've been so blessed with the leadership we've had in the governor's office, also the leadership we've had in the House and the Senate, and just really reaping the benefits of good investment. We have over $1 billion available in this legislative session. Not only that, but we have also a new governor, a new lieutenant governor, a new attorney general, a new House Speaker, and a new head of Appropriations Committee and all other committees who are coming in that are getting inaugurated, sworn in on January 15th. And it's a change. It's a change from the Democratic leadership to Republican leadership. Jackie, tell us, how will you work, or if you will change, but how will you work with those in leadership, both from the governor's office all the way down to the House?
I think for me, it's a matter of doing what I tell my own little citizens to do: listen more, talk less, be attentive, and prepare. Right? Is that I'm coming in as the new kid on the block, and I've done this several times, just transferring from command to command. You recognize you're walking into a system that may have a new CEO, may have a new XO, may have a new CNC, right? And I know I'm talking foreign to some folks, but you may have new leadership, but that's their ship. That is their command, right? And you have to know that my job, my function, I come with a specialized set of skill sets that should add value to and for who I'm trying to represent, my division, my coworkers, my comrades. And so for me, this is an opportunity to learn, right? To be, I call it brilliant on the basics. And the basics tell me that I need to understand budget. I need to understand the statewide budget a lot better than I already do, to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to show up in a way that's meaningful for the people of the 89th and, quite frankly, Norfolk on a whole. So this is truly an opportunity. It's not just about the shift for them. It's a shift for all of us, and who we show up in the process. And that's my job.
Absolutely. The humility that you have when you say that I need to learn, right? And I mean, I think that shows a true servant's heart, because a lot of times it's easy for us to say, oh, I got it, or I can do this, or I don't need anybody's help. But the truth of the matter is we all need to learn. No one got here by themselves. And I tell all of my mentees that all of us needed somebody, and nobody pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, because somebody had to supply you the boots and the straps and show you how to tie them. So, with that, it's about learning, going through the process. Over the years, Jackie, who have been some of your mentors that and those that you've looked up to in community work, advocacy, and also in public policy?
So for me, some of the folks that I've looked at, I'll start from the ground. It's definitely been, I'm a Civic League president, and the previous past Civic League president of my Civic League over in Ballantyne Place is Mr. Abdul Abzwad. And I will say with 100% certainty, I am not here right now if he was not gently nudging me consistently and just reminding me that, hey, I see, here's what you need to do. I need you to go talk to these people, sort of just like, and I'm saying gently and I'm using it very lightly, because we know when our elders tell us to do something and it ends in a period, that it probably needs to go ahead and happen. So I'm very fortunate to have Mr. Aswad as a mentor, and from a place of love and patience, because I'm an elder millennial. So I do like to ask a lot of questions and sort of be like, but why? So I'm grateful for him. I would also say one of our council people, Councilwoman McClellan, it was one of the first people that asked me, hey, I hear your skill set. The first time I met her at her office hours, said, I hear your skill set. Have you considered our school board? Like, people that just ask the questions and also challenge me and allow me to challenge in a way, too. Policy-wise, Dr. Claville, I don't know if you know this, but my friend Elena introduced me to your work. Wow. And she said, Jackie, I'm just telling you. And if you can hear her talk, she said, listen, I'm going to just tell you. Over at Nova State, there is this gentleman. His name is Eric. I want you to follow him, and I want you to look. So when I say I'm truly grateful for the candor and the conviction and the line, because it's easy to speak about things just from our lens, but it can be very difficult to challenge ourselves to take things like politics and policy and give people a full picture to come to their own conclusions from a place of knowledge, obviously, right? Like, you don't just know this stuff. So there's a level of admiration that I have there. And then I have two amazing little citizens, and I hate to say, my family, my husband, and my children. If I am able to speak in a way that is diplomatic, it is because these people in my household are very good at asking what about it makes it so, from a place to grow knowledge, right? From a growth mindset. So I'm grateful for them keeping me honest, and also just, seeing me for who I am, but challenging me to not just show up, but to show up from a place of preparation and willingness and openness. And I've got an amazing husband. I just say that. Like, that's my best friend, who says, you're like my father, I know why your eyes are brown, because you're full of it. So let's go ahead and have this whole full conversation.
That is absolutely wonderful. It sounds like a fun time in the Glass household. I'm just going to say that.
Verbal judo. If you know verbal judo, you may survive. Okay.
In this type of work, first of all, thank you so much for the compliment. I'm truly humble and grateful to do what I do. And I say this all the time. I work for the best president in the world. It's the best job I've ever had at the best university and the best people to work with. So, I like to say that things just don't happen. I believe that things are always divine. And it's our moment, our time, our voice, our mission to do that which we've been purposed to do. So I believe that God puts us around all those individuals for such a time as this, to make sure that he gets everything out of us that we're supposed to be doing in this moment. And when I talk with you, I hear you talk about, the things that matter to you. And I want our listeners to go to your website. It's Jackie, 4Norfolk.com. That's Jackie4Norfolk.com. You can read more things about candidate Jackie Glass, who's no stranger to community advocacy here in the community, to doing things in the community because she wants to do the job. But here we talked about, of course, women and families in the first half hour, affordable housing, small business and economy, and also the environment. When we take a look at equity, you mentioned equity can happen in the 89th. That's number one on your site. Talk about equity from the vantage point that you see it from the ground, that you believe you can create in policy.
Yeah, equity comes in dollars, right? I'm just being really honest at this point. Mm-hmm. If we look at what is needed in some of our communities, it is a matter of allowing our budgets to be seen in a way in where they have neglected, right? And being really honest with ourselves about what that looks like. Now, I will not claim to be an expert in quantifying equity. I won't, but I will say that that's something that is absolutely needed on every front. And I'm grateful to Norfolk Public Schools for saying in their last budget year that they're going to commit to getting an equity officer, right, to do that work, and to really be able to do it. So when we look at the 89th, what I see is we've got some of the most wealthiest Norfolk residents, and we've got some of the most economically advancing Norfolk residents, right? And if we just take our sense of canvassing, you mentioned canvassing earlier. Here's what happens: is I went canvassing with my daughter in an affluent neighborhood in Norfolk, and she says, and she's walking the sidewalk, and she goes, "Mom, look, we can both walk on this sidewalk," as if it was a foreign concept. Uh-huh. She's like, not only that, I can go down here and walk on this second sidewalk. Then she says, oh, my goodness, there's a grocery store right here by these people's houses. They could go get sushi if they wanted to. And I think if we take that and just walk down the road, walk into different neighborhoods, we can see where there is true inequity because of investment. And that's, again, for me, what it boils down to: put your money where your mouth is, right? We can talk about it, but it has to be. But we also have to build community. In order to really get equity, we have to build communities that will not expect what they're not willing to inspect. We have to put people in a place of education that says, what I mean by that is that we can elect who we want, we can say these things, and people can tell us that to trust them, but we must also be in a place to verify. So for me, equity for me starts with investment. And we just have to have that be in the ABCs of local governance to be bold enough to not just have a conversation about what equity looks like, but go ahead and build the dollars in to those sorts of things, like, fixing sidewalks.
Right. Exactly. It's funny because you mentioned that Norfolk is a city that is, I think, it's one of the great cities of our country where you have some of the best food in Hampton Roads here in the Commonwealth. You have, some of the what I call hole in the walls, but you walk in and it just blows your mind. Also, we have the waterways, we have the Navy, the military, we have our great universities, including Norfolk State University, ODU, and others. Great radio stations, great people, but we also have that great divide.
Absolutely.
And how do we close the gap of that great divide? And out of the mouth of babes, right? just your daughter giving that example of this is what equity looks like. Or this is what inequity looks like, and this is how we can create equity in our communities. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So in the first half hour, we talked about, who you are. On your site, you talk about things that I do. And I had a chance to look at, right? And of course, I follow your community work as well, your advocacy in different areas and genres. Didn't know that you were advocating in these many areas. And I'm scratching my head saying to myself, when does she sleep, right? So,
yeah.
so tell our listeners some of the things that you do in the community.
See, you're asking me a list of things that it's very difficult to articulate because you're right. Like, I do stuff and things, and that's why I say I'm a certified doer. And I love having certified doers on a team, but I feel like I have been able to be a part of teams that have allowed me to do things like, I'm an ambassador for the United States of Women, which is part of what brought forth the Child Care Entrepreneurship Pilot Program. I've talked about Civic League. I have a civic organization called the Mob, Mamas on the Block, really helping women get civically engaged. Now, I do a podcast, too, called Your Neighbor's Hood, where we have uncomfortable culture conversations specifically about race, and that was born out of knocking doors in this city and people being reticent to talk about race in a way of, who I hire and who I don't hire and why things are the way they are. You put me, like, I feel like I have a hard time bragging or not bragging, but just articulating. But I feel like I'm a person that, if I can be of service, right, if I can commit and also being honest about to what level I commit, I show up and try to be an added value. And I think that is what has afforded me to do all of these many things. We built a homework house, like, and being able to support people in home buying, being able to support, like, it's just been just having the right team, right, has afforded me this opportunity, and that starts right in my home, right? Wakanda starts at home. It has started right in my home of just being able to sort of advocate. I don't know if I missed something. I don't know if something caught your eye that I'm not mentioning, but I know I'll be busy. But I feel like it's productive. I can't sit down. It's okay.
You know what? It's what caught my eye was everything. I was like, wow. You're involved in policy, bringing the Crown Act to Virginia. You're involved in the community, doing the things that you do, involved with children, with the reading programs, involved across the board. In other words, as you say, just simply doing the work, right?
Can I say something about that too?
Sure.
Like the precipice of a lot of the things I do, and I think for many people is their pain. And I'm really proud of the Crown Act, and it's the one thing that I think I can say to the everyday person is that I did not recognize how big that was bringing that to this state. I did not at all, but I knew why. And looking at my daughter wanting to wear locks and having this deep sentiment of like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be how other people could stifle her economic advancement, her academic advancement, just because of the way she wanted her wear her hair. Like, it's something serious for me. So if I could say anything to people, it's like, when we find our pain points, to your point earlier, Dr. Claville, that there is an opportunity. There's oftentimes an opportunity to enact some change, right? Just knowing how these systems work can help us work within them better. And I hope and I pray that we are successful on Tuesday, because I feel like we are about to get into the classroom. Me and the community are about to get in the classroom to do some really amazing work.
It's amazing you mentioned that, because I was looking at a LinkedIn post the other day, and it had an animation of a kid wearing his natural hair, and there was a kid that was standing next to the picture that was of the animation, and I'm assuming it was created after that particular child because it looked just like the child. And and underneath the caption, he was smiling big, but underneath the caption it said "Representation Matters." Mm-hmm. And you think about growing up in integration. You think about growing up, at least I do, growing up and ensuring that, you're always told you got to get it just right. You got to work twice as hard, and growing up in a society that really didn't appreciate who you are,
yeah,
but tolerated who you are.
Yeah.
And you think about just that, being able just to wear your hair in a fashion that is natural for our culture, our people, and being not so much accepted, but just being respected for that.
Just for what it is. It's dignity, honoring people's dignity of who they are, who and what they are. I was amazed last night, and I'll say this quick. My daughter asked me to get this game called Animal Crossing, which is like a kid version of The Sims. And she told me on this Animal Crossing game that she could buy a do-rag for her animal. And I said, what?
Wow.
You know, like something as simple as having a do-rag, being able to buy it to go to sleep in a game. I said, wow, how fortunate are they to be living in a time that has made so many advancements where, like, my mind is blown of just what has been normalized in the past 10, 15 years. I'm just grateful.
Absolutely. Again, for such a time as this, we're talking with Jackie Glass. She has joined us. She is the candidate for the 89th District House of Delegates here in the city of Norfolk to replace Jay Jones, who resigned his seat on December 16th. The special election is this Tuesday, January 11th. You can go out and cast your vote for the candidate of your choice who's running in this election. Jackie, in the closing moments, is there anything that you want to talk to our listeners about, how to get out and vote, how they can go to your website and see where they can vote, whatever you want? Let us know.
All right. Yeah, I'm grateful. So you've said it several times. If you just want to learn a little bit more about me, it's not the full experience. I'm a whole person and attainable. You can go to Jackie, the number 4 Norfolk.com. Most importantly, it doesn't matter who you're voting for. Like, we have a democratic process for a reason, and I trust and believe and value it. So Tuesday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., we have an opportunity. Voter turnout is probably going to be low, but don't make it because he didn't show. So tell your mama, tell your friends, tell your cousins. We have to do this. We have to exercise this right as it continues to be challenged. If you're not sure about your registration or whether or not you're updated, you can go to elections.virginia.gov and verify your registration. And I'll tell you this, if you don't know if you're able to vote in this election, if Jay Jones was on your last ballot, you are voting in this one. You have the opportunity to vote in this election. So I'm just saying, get out and do it and spread the word, because that's the biggest piece.
That's it. That's Jackie Glass, candidate for the 89th District Special Election, which is this Tuesday. Early voting ended on January 8th. But you can still vote in the general election for the special election on this Tuesday. This Tuesday, normally where you have voted, if you're in the 89th District and you voted for Jay Jones, and you can always go down to City Hall and vote there here in the city of Norfolk. Jackie Glass, thank you so much for joining us here on Save the Water. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Make it a great day.
Absolutely. Well, Marvin, as we talk about all the time, here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we've got a important election every year, and even within the year, we have an important election. And this election is just as important as all the others. And I know that we can get election fatigue sometimes, right? But if we don't go out and vote, if we don't go out and ensure that we have representation, will the 89th voice have a voice? The 89th District won't have a voice. So it's up to you, the listeners, the people in the community, to go out and choose the candidate of your choice. That's the music. So you know what that means. That means that our time is up. And we've had a phenomenal opportunity to talk with phenomenal people here on Save the Water, all of 2020, 2021, and now the start of 2022. But guess what? You can catch us every Sunday at 1 p.m. here on Hot 91, the Soul of VA, on the campus of the Norfolk State University, or you can stream us on our streaming app. And join us for Save the Water, where we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Until next time, God bless, go out and be great, and we'll see you next week.